The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Here's what's cooking on today's Sports Though Fantasy Baseball Show. We want a pitcher, not a belly itcher. We're talking starting pitchers, and we'll get into some closers as well. We'll be joined by Nick Macaronis to talk the NL East. That's what's cooking on today's Sports Though Fantasy Baseball Show.
Play ball!
Welcome into an all-new edition of the Sports Though Fantasy Baseball Show, presented by BellyUpFantasySports.com and Righteous Felon Jerky, RighteousFelon.com. I'm your host, Vince Stover, and I am joined, if I can push the right button, by the senior fantasy Belly Up baseball writer, Kevin Wilson, joining the show again. Kev, how you doing, man?
Oh, we're doing great. It's my wife's birthday today, and
Happy birthday.
And so we were able to take a couple days off and enjoy ourselves a little bit. And I missed the football show this morning because it's her birthday, but we've had a great time, and we're back on the beam. So here I am.
Yes, you missed the fantasy football show, but not the fantasy baseball show.
You know, priorities. Am I right, Ben?
You got it. We welcome in all our listeners listening to us live on the Sports Stove YouTube page or the Belly Up Fantasy Facebook page, and all those listening later via the podcast found on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. If you've missed any of our past episodes, go to find the Sports Stove podcast, and you'll find we had the corner infielders, middle infielders, and outfielders and catchers all ranked already this year. And, of course, we're gearing up to next week, our live fantasy baseball draft right here, live on YouTube. And we'll be bringing in the league members throughout the draft to be talking about different things going on, strategies and stuff like that. And, Kev, you and I were talking before we came on live. It's going to be an intriguing draft for us because we have 4 new members, I think.
That's right. And one guy who's never done fantasy baseball before.
Yeah.
And so it's going to see what kind of presence he brings to it, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what exactly it happens. You and I are towards the end of the draft, and so I was at the front last year. I'm at number 7 this year, so it'll be interesting to see how the draft strategy works or does not work, and how fast we abandon that strategy depending on how things are going.
True. Very true. And I've said this, but this will be the first time ever that I've been in a league with another Milwaukee Brewers fan. So I've never had to fight for Brewers.
As I mentioned to both of you, we'll be keeping our eyes on you guys to make sure there's no underhandedness going on.
Yeah. Well, I've got an article coming out tomorrow, Kev, on BellyUpFantasySports.com. NL Central fantasy locks, busts, and sleepers. And so you can read which Brewers I'm looking at or avoiding this year.
I'll be interested to hear that myself. So yeah. I'm looking forward to it already.
I posted the AL East article on Saturday. It's available on BellyUpFantasySports.com, and the NL Central comes out tomorrow. We'll continue to post those. The plan is every other day, posting a new division out there. And Kev, what's the most recent thing you've put out?
Well, last week we talked about outfielders, and so I didn't talk about the top outfielders because I think a lot of people already realize who they are. But I've got the outfielder values article that's on the Belly Up Fantasy website right now. So if you want to find out who you might want to be taking once we get to the later stages of the draft, that is something you'll definitely want to check out. So Belly Up Fantasy website, it's there. And there are all kinds of articles. We're blowing the doors off of Belly Up fantasy website with our baseball fantasy stories. They're coming out so fast and so furious. So if you're into fantasy baseball, definitely get over there and check that out immediately after the show.
Yeah, 100%. There is. You're right. A ton of stuff being produced right now.
Nobody cares about basketball, apparently, even though I did have an article I just did a couple weeks ago on fantasy basketball, because the fantasy basketball and hockey playoffs start tomorrow.
Yes.
So if you're into that, we won't mention anything because this is baseball. But if you're into that, get over to the Belly Up Fantasy website and check that out.
All right, let's get into our first segment of the day, and we're going to be talking closers in our fantasy burner. All right, for our fantasy burner topic today, we're going to talk closers because you don't draft a lot of well, some people might, I suppose, but in most cases, closers are kind of that thing that to me, they're like kickers in fantasy football. You're going to grab them here when they're at the right value, but I don't reach for closers. And last year was a perfect example of that. You took Josh Hader. Would have loved to have had Hader on my team, but I wasn't willing to take that draft pick that high. What's your strategy with closers?
Well, as you know, I am not big on closers or relief pitchers to begin with. And as you mentioned, I did think that Josh Hader was a good enough draft pick that I did take him, and it worked up until it didn't work.
Until the trade deadline, pretty much.
Right.
Yeah.
And just before that, he was falling apart for whatever reason. We won't get into any of that. But so I am a guy that if I don't have a single relief pitcher on my team, I'm fine with that. If there's a guy that I'm like, wow, okay, he's hanging around, I might take a look at that. And so it's easy for me to say that, when it comes, because we've got holds as a category in our league.
We do.
And saves are a category in our league. You could be pretty sure that Team Wilson will be in the back end of that.
Yeah.
But it's not a cats league. So that does not factor into it. It's just points. And so being that the case, relief pitchers, to me, because you don't know when they're going to pitch. If they pitch bad, it really drags down your team with the negative points and all that sort of stuff. So I'm not that big on relief pitchers unless it makes sense. And I thought it made sense last year, like I said, to take Josh Hader when I did. And so you can be pretty sure I will not be doing that this year.
Yeah, in our league, with holds being 5 points for a hold, I was pretty aggressive in the waiver wire looking for holds. I only had, I think, two setup guys, and I think I had 2 closers, if I remember right, on my team. So that it wasn't a lot of bullpen guys, but I knew I could get some points there. And actually, I think the holds is a safer bet than even the.
I think so too, because they pitch earlier in the game.
Yeah,
it's not
the pressure.
The pressure's not there. They usually they might come in and they don't have the runners on base or whatever else. But so if you're into, that's going to take some research on your part if that is what you're looking for, because the holds guys is not something you're going to find at the top of anybody's closer, list.
Definitely.
So
now
do some research on that.
Not everybody has holds in their league, so we're gonna limit this.
They should. I think they should. It's a legitimate.
That's fair.
Category.
Yeah,
and
I like it in our league.
I do too. And blown saves also has a
negative.
It's -5. There's no. Well, if you have a hold situation and you blow it, that's a blown save.
Yeah.
So you got to take that into account.
Yeah.
So as we've talked many times, know your league rule.
When we look at closers, though, specifically, I've got 4 guys that I'm interested in. And then after that, I really don't care. If I don't get one of those 4 at the right spot, then I'll wait until late in the draft to even consider picking up closers. The 4 that I've got, and I've got them in this order, Kevin, is Devin Williams with Milwaukee. I think he's going to be phenomenal this year. Emmanuel Clase in Cleveland, Edwin Diaz for the Mets, and Josh Hader in San Diego. You mentioned Hader's fall last year, but he had some major family issues going on. A daughter that was sick,
and so that affected him, obviously.
Yeah,
he's a human being just like you or I, and so I've got 5 closers that I'm looking at, and I've got Edwin Diaz in the number 1 spot simply because I think the Mets are going to be in a lot of games. And their owner spent $1 billion or whatever it is he did, and so they're going to be in the lead a lot. So opportunities, you got to look for opportunities when it comes to closers. So I got him at number 1, even though he's ranked 4th by Fantasy Pros. But I've got a number 1, Emmanuel Clase of Cleveland. He's a quality pitcher. He's number 1 on Fantasy Pros. Cleveland's going to have a good enough team. There'll be some leads and stuff going on there.
Got a great
3,
rotation.
Devin Williams. I am all in. I agree with you. That I don't know how much your Milwaukee bias is talking with when it comes to him, but he is a guy that can strike out with the best of them. And I think Milwaukee's going to have a quality team this year. And so I like him at number 3. I got Josh Hader at number 4. He could move up, but that's the thing. When you're drafting, you get what you get. Right. I think that he could move from that for number 4. He could move up to the number 1 spot, conceivably. Yeah. And I've got one more, and that's Ryan Presley of the Houston Astros at number 5. And he's a pitcher who he did everything last year. It's all here. It's 33 saves. He only blew 4 games all season. And so everything is locked in for him. Houston's they're defending champions. They're going to have a quality team as well. So 5 guys that I'm looking at that top the leaderboards when it comes to closers.
Yeah, I like those as well. And we'll talk about closers as the season goes on. We'll kind of keep an eye on what they're doing and as we need to get them. But we try to keep this first segment quick. That's our fantasy burner. And Kev, it's time to get into our guest segment of the day, a call to the pin. Now it's time for our guest segment. We named our call to the pin. Our call to the pin is presented by Righteous Felon Jerky. If you want the purest jerky in the game, you got to go straight to the source. Righteous Felon has partnered with the best natural black Angus beef producers in the land to lock up supply and guarantee the best tasting, best textured, and freshest beef jerky on the market. And you can visit righteousfelon.com. Use the promo code BELLYUP to get 15% off your purchase. And welcoming in, I got to push the right buttons here. Our guest for the day is Nick Macaronis, who joined us a lot last year as well. And he's here to talk some some regular baseball and fantasy baseball with us today. Nick, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well, my friends. How are we doing? It's been a long time.
It's been a while, Nick, since we talked. I mean, how's it going out there?
Busy, but rolling into spring break. Have this week off. Got a nice long honeydew list. I got to tackle, but it's gonna get done.
Okay. The honeydew list. Yes, that's always a good time.
I was off this past week. I didn't have a honeydew list, so I feel that's great.
Oh, okay.
Even though it's her birthday, so she could have conceivably given me one, but it didn't happen, so we were able to enjoy ourselves.
All right.
Nick is joining our fantasy league this year. Last year, he was on the show with us a lot on Belly Up Fantasy Live, Fantasy Baseball Live as well. And Nick's a big Phillies fan. So let's talk last season, because you can hold to that a little while longer.
Yes.
Were you surprised by the way it ended?
Well, first of all, I was genuinely surprised that we made it as far as we did, because I thought we were going to go to the playoffs, make the first round, and then that would be it. Was I surprised? Actually, I was, because I had that fool's gold glimmer of hope that all the planets were going to align and everything was going to come together, and we were going to take down the Astros. And as the series went on, as you know, it didn't work out that way. But I'm very ecstatic about their progress and coming into this year. Like being a lifelong Philly fan. For those of you that are listening out there and that know and that are over the age of 40, for decades they just trolled out anything that would resemble a baseball player to put on a field, because they know that fans would show up. And now they're hungry. They're going after good players, big name players, stars, legitimate stars. Trey Turner. I told Kevin at the end of last season he's coming to Philly. He says, "Oh, we'll wait and see." Well, we waited and we saw. So and then they got to hold afloat until Harper gets healthy, until he comes back. And I was very happy with the way they didn't fall apart when Harper went down. So I expect the same great things. And of course, you always got that championship hangover. One team always falters, and then one team always springs forward in every sport. So I'm hoping, with Bryce being out to the All-Star break, Schwarber stays pace. At least he won't be hitting leadoff this year. That'll be good. You don't see a leadoff man his size, A, and B, hitting 46 home runs. So now we got Turner up there, and then they improved the pitching staff. They finally listened to me, and they improved the pitching staff. So that's a big plus.
Let's start with the offense. You already mentioned Trey Turner, which was a phenomenal signing. I didn't think they'd get him, honestly. I guess I don't understand how these baseball teams have the money to do all this, but
creative accounting is what they call it.
They also add Josh Harrison, who's not scheduled to start at this moment, but he's a quality infielder coming over from the White Sox to add some depth there into the positions as well. But talk about some of these guys that they added last year. Castellanos, he kind of underperformed. Well, not kind of. He underperformed.
Kind of.
What was the expectation?
Kind of would be generous.
Does he come back this year and get back to what he was?
That's what I'm interested in hearing. Is he going to have the last season, or is it going to be what we might expect?
Years ago, yeah.
I'm going to be hopefully optimistic, and I'm going to say he improves and he plays for what we're paying for. Because I think I don't know
the offense, right? Because his defense isn't brilliant.
No, I would like to think that it was an adjustment period, like a lot of players do. Playing in Philly. I mean, heck, I remember whenever Randy Johnson went to New York from I believe it was the Diamondbacks. Like he just fell all over himself, and he didn't do well. It took him a while to get underfoot. But again, you're hopelessly optimistic that he's going to perform. So he has to, or else he may be a trade chip coming off our break or trade deadline time.
Yeah, he went from 34 home runs in 2021 to 13 last year. His batting average
got to be one of the biggest drop-offs of any player.
It's one of them. He went from 309 to 263 in the batting average. He did steal 7 bases, up from 3 the year before. And this year, all the steals to go up a little bit. So maybe it's double.
I can steal 7 bases.
I'd like to see it.
So would I.
Let's get down to the base pass and let's see this.
Oh my goodness.
So you mentioned about Bryce Harper. So he's in camp, as I had heard. And so that's got to be positive news. And so in fantasy, how do you expect him to be handled come draft day?
Okay. Well, just to go off of White, we say he's in camp, but he's not cleared to hit a baseball yet. So he's cleared to swing.
About anything, isn't that
right? He can swing, but he can't make contact. So, and then going on with your other question, how do I think he's going to be handled? I had a draft not too long ago, and he actually went in the top of the second round. So I was surprised to see that, because he's coming back so late. But when you're talking about Bryce Harper, that's like a whole different animal right there. So I could see why somebody took the chance on him to just draft him. I got him. I'm going to stash him, and then I'm going to make up for him and then cross my fingers for when he comes back, because he's not due back until the All-Star break. So realistically, every average human being would take about 3 weeks to a month to get back into form. Bryce Harper, it could be a week. We don't know. So, God bless you if you draft him that high. I was going to avoid him.
So you wouldn't touch him.
How long would you avoid him? Let me put it that way. What round would you like? Okay, I'm not going to avoid him anymore.
He's going to be gone 6, 7, 8-ish.
Okay, that's where you're comfortable getting him.
Being a reserve, because you have to stash them. I mean, unless you're content and putting up zeros for 3 months, which I don't know. And as Kevin would say, if you're going to do that, I don't know why you would wake up and play fantasy baseball anyway. So again, that late, it's kind of like drafting fantasy football. I mean, if you know a guy is going to be out for 6 weeks, that's half your season. Are you really going to waste a high draft pick on a guy just to come back for the second half of the year when you could already be down and not in playoff contention anyway? So one guy is not going to be worth drafting that high when injured, even though he could be a monster coming back. That's like drafting a guy just to fill the steal stat. I mean, I'm not going to draft a guy that high for one stat. It's just that doesn't work for me.
Another guy you guys added last year was Brandon Marsh, and he really added something special to that team when he came in. He gave you a lot of good stats. The big thing is his strikeout percentage is way up there, 34.5. But outside of that, he came in and gave some power, gave you some stolen bases, RBIs, and his batting average wasn't horrible, 245. So he comes in year 2 now in the organization as well. What do you like about him that maybe you saw from last year that you expect from this year?
Stat wise, really not too much, but I like his ability to get the team going. He kind of reminds me of Jason Worth in that regard. He's a rah-rah guy. If you remember the guy from Philly, Aaron Rowand, who would literally run through a wall. That's the guy. You need that kind of guy in the locker room to rally the team around whenever Bryce isn't there. So I like his attitude, and he's always good to unclog the bases.
So who's the player do you think that's going to benefit most from Bryce Harper's first half absence? Who's going to fill his shoes, so to speak?
I would probably say the guy that needs to be traded most on this team because of his value is going to be Rhys Hoskins. I think Rhys has got to step it up, and in his absence as well, a kid that no one's really talking about too much is Edmundo Sosa. I think he's going to come on this year. He's going to belt probably about 20 to 25 home runs, and then we could always call up Derek Hall again. He's a two-way player. He'll spend a month down in Wilkes-Barre, then he'll come up for a month. And I think if he puts it all together, he could solidify himself a permanent roster spot. Right now, Scott Kingery's on the roster, but we know who he is. I mean, he was a nice story, but he's not an NFL player
on your fantasy team. Am I right?
Right. And then I like Bohm. Bohm is supposed to step up really big this year. He may play some first base this year and to give Hoskins some time off in the field so he can concentrate on the DH.
Interesting. I was going to ask you about him as well, just because he's a kid that had a lot of high expectations and doesn't really feel like he's met those expectations yet. He's never been horrible, but he's also just not there where some people were hoping to be. We got a good family friend that's a Phillies fan, and he was pretty disappointed in what Bohm has given so far. Let's talk about the rotation, though. I love Nola and Wheeler. I'm kind of down on the other 3 guys. Taijuan Walker comes over from the Mets. Ranger Suarez is back, and then they're saying it's Bailey Falter there as your 5th guy. Are you excited about this rotation, or are you kind of top heavy?
No, I am. Out of all those guys, I love Ranger Suarez. He just got something.
Like Ranger, right? Am I right, Nick? Ranger.
Yeah. I don't know what he just got that. I don't know. The new phrase in Philly is dog mentality. Like, he'll just go out there and give you everything he got every time he goes out there. In the playoffs, when he was called to come out of the pen, he did it for you. I like that. Falter, I don't really know too much about him. The one guy, the one guy that we picked up, I wanted him 2 years ago, but we got him too late. Was freaking Craig Kimbrel. I think he's done.
You can have him, Nick. You can.
I know. Thank you. I wanted him 2 years ago when he was actually worth a darn, but he's just not anything anymore. His arm is jello. I love our closer. I like Dominguez. I like Alvarado. I think we're going to be more dependent on our starters this year to go 6-7, maybe instead of that 3-4, and then try and piece together a bullpen win, which oddly didn't work out too much well for us last year, but it got us to the World Series. But I don't think you can go to that well again.
You guys have in your bullpen 4 guys with closer experience, which makes me think that you'll have a lot of 5-inning starts and then going 6, 7, 8, 9 out of the bullpen, depending on the guy. I think Nola maybe go longer than that sometimes. But Gregory Soto's a guy you guys traded for Got him from Detroit. He's a lefty, only 28 years old, a ton of success, even in Detroit, which is hard to come by these days. And you add him. My question is those other guys, right? So you got Soto. Kimbrel is a wild card in the sense that he seems to be washed up. Alvarado, Dominguez, very good. Soto's very good. But then you got guys, was it Bellotti? I'm not sure if I'm saying that correct. Andrew Bellotti, Matt Strom, Connor Brogdon, and Nick Nelson. And those guys, they don't make anybody sweat.
I'm sorry. I do take umbrage with that. Connor Brogdon makes me sweat every time he's on the mound. First of all, he's 6'6" and 205. He's built like a pencil. I don't want him anywhere near the mound. Every time he comes on the mound, he reminds me of AJ Burnett. No, don't want him. Don't need him. Get him out of there. And the other guys, you just have to wait and see. But I think we're going to be a lot better with our starting rotation and, of course, our lineup. Now we're going to rely on power, getting people on, getting them over, our RBI heavy. So, if we can hold off the Braves and the Mets, I think we'll be in good situation as we were. I think we'll be in better spot last year.
Yeah, I mean, last year 87 wins. We thought it'd be higher than that going into the season, and but they pulled it off. They got to the playoffs, got to where they needed to be at the end of the day. Now, Kevin mentioned Edwin Diaz as a closer for the Mets, and one of the things he talked about is he's going to have the opportunity to earn saves. When you look at the Mets and you see the average age of their pitching staff, do you feel like the Mets are going to be where they were last year at 100+ wins, or do you think that maybe them and the Phillies could flip-flop standings-wise?
I think they're going to be worse because I think they're going to rely too heavily on Scherzer and Verlander and Quintana. I don't think
their combined ages are 79 years old.
They could be our president.
Maybe so.
Maybe so.
Let's not go there.
Okay, so we're not going to do that, but all their starters are in their 30s.
Yeah.
Jose Quintana, which I liked a year ago, is 34. Carlos Carrasco is 36. And the newcomer, Cody Senga, is 30. So that's got to be an issue at some point, doesn't it?
Oh, it is. And then they stole I don't know if they stole him, but they took Coonrod from us. He did okay last year. And then Zach Green, again, he's one of the younger guys there. But again, I mean, you got a guy that was born in 88. I mean, Brooks Raley, again, they're not afraid to spend money, but they're not spending it in the appropriate areas. They should go with the youth movement like everybody else in the league does, because that works. They're in win now mode, but they don't have the players to win now, in my estimation. I mean, on the field, once you get behind Alonso, where is your power coming from? I mean, you look up and down the roster, you got average guys.
Don't tell me Nemo. Don't do that.
No, I'm not. That's what I'm asking you.
Okay.
You can hit for average with McNeil. Lindor's always going to be good, but where is your power coming from? Kenna, I don't know how many home runs he hit, and then you got Marte. Where is your power coming from?
Well, Marte's not giving you the power because, first of all, he has to be healthy. Second of all, even if he is, he's your guy that's going to get you some steals. And as Vince is well aware, I liked him last year.
Yeah.
But that train is in the station this year.
Yeah, I mean, he'll get. Well, I guess he won't get 20. He's had over 20 home runs twice in his career.
He's done it before, but that's not happening this year, I don't think.
No, I think the Mets are going to be done before September this year.
I'm interested to see what they do with their pitching, though. They did acquire Eliezer Hernandez from Miami. He's currently slated to come out of the bullpen as a long reliever, but that could change. Quintana, he fractured his ribs this month, so he's going to be out for a little bit probably as well. So there's going to be an open door. But they do have Edwin Diaz, who at the very least is one of the most entertaining closers out there.
You got to give him entertainment, right? So.
He was as entertaining as Mitch Williams was in '93. Every time he went out there, it's like, oh my gosh, give me my heart medicine.
All right, now what about Atlanta? Atlanta is that
Atlanta's Atlanta.
but they've lost some guys. They continue to lose guys every year, it seems like. Last year was Freddie Freeman. This year they lose not near as big a piece in Dansby Swanson, but Dansby Swanson, who's been one of the most consistent players out there. And they just come in, they bring up the next new guy, right? He's been around, but Vaughn Grissom, high expectations for him coming in. Ozzie Albies coming off an injury. A lot of guys are down on Albies, and I don't get it. He was hurt last year, but before that,
if I get a chance to draft him, he's coming on Team Wilson.
Well, you got a chance at number 7, Kev.
Oh, wait. No. I know I'm wearing glasses just like you, Vince, but I can't see. And so, no, number 7.
We're all wearing glasses, Kevin.
All wearing glasses, but no. So, but second base, as we've talked about, is so desolate. If you're in the, I don't know, 5th round, maybe 4th, and he's sitting there, don't you have to scoop him?
Ozzie Albies?
Yeah.
Oh, he won't be there in the 4th.
Okay.
No.
I can promise you that.
Okay. I'm not doing that in the 1st or 2nd. 3rd, maybe.
If you want a top second baseman, you have to get him in the 2nd round. That's the way it's going to shake out.
Okay. So
look at Atlanta's pitching roster.
Top second baseman, not on Team Wilson.
Right. Okay. All right. You said it. Pitching, Nick. Max Fried, Kyle Wright, Charlie Morton, Spencer Strider, Ian Anderson. I hate Charlie Morton. I don't want him on my team.
Every year we talk about him and we're like, we don't want him. Then he turns right around and he's there at the end of the season.
I don't care.
At some point, he has to step off the curb.
Yeah.
And get have the bus coming.
Yeah.
But
I like Fried fine. I like Kyle Wright fine.
I like Fried.
I like Strider.
And
I like
going in the draft, major value. We're going to talk maybe, starter.
Yeah,
he's on my roster. Who knows?
Yeah.
But Strider, now that's the guy right there.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard a lot of negative things about Strider, and I don't understand that at all. This guy was striking out. He struck out everybody. And so,
what were the things you were hearing?
That he's not going to be elite like that, and he's going to take a step back, and all this. I'm not buying that. I had him a year ago. You're not going to get him off the waiver wire as I did a year ago, but he is a guy that you could look at coming up pretty high in the draft and being someone that you can count on. To me,
I think he had to take a step backwards.
Well, his numbers last year, he was 11-5, 267, 202 strikeouts with a whip of 99. I mean, how much better do you want?
Right. I think he has to go backwards. And by backwards, I don't mean he's got a
I don't think so, because he's going to add on. He's going to have quality and quantity because he didn't pitch a full season. Plus, he was hurt towards the end.
Yeah, so he only pitched in 31 games.
The whole season. He's going to be an elite starter in my mind.
He started 20 games. He ended up the season with 2 holds and 1 blown save. That's an odd stat for a guy that had the season that he had.
I'm sorry, what was that again?
He had 2 blown saves, 2 holds and 1 blown save.
Oh, geez.
Right, because he did pitch in 10 games as a reliever.
Yeah. 11 actually. 11 games as a reliever.
11.
But
11.
Close enough. Okay. I didn't mean to correct you. I'm sorry. You were close enough.
That's all right.
I think he's a good pitcher. You'll see him. We'll talk about him in a minute when we get to our rankings. But anyways, my point with the Braves is this, Nick. They got to be the scariest team in the East.
Oh, by far. Yeah. I think it's going to be Braves 1, Phillies 2.
Okay.
So Phillies win blank games this year, Nick.
91.
91, because Vince, wasn't it 88? I was watching your show when you were talking about that with your dad. Wasn't it 88 was the over-under?
88.5, yeah. Good job, Kev.
Okay. All right. So the memory's still around a little bit.
I saw as low as 83, and I was like, there's no way.
No.
Wherever that is, please let me know that, because I would go over there and I'd put
I don't gamble, but I would gamble on that one. 88.5. I'm with you, Nick.
I'm going over 88.5 easily.
Yeah, I thought you guys said on my show they'd be close, 90, 91, 92, somewhere in that range as well. And they got to do better than 87. And we've said, I think the Mets go back. I don't think the Mets are going to be bad, but I think the Mets will go back a little bit.
They're not going to win 100 games as they did a year ago.
No.
I don't think so. Hey, we're running out of time for this segment, so let's do these last two quickly. Marlins, are you any concern about the Marlins?
Only when they play Philly because seriously, for as bad as they are,
I got you.
they got the Phillies number like every single freaking year.
Yeah.
The only guy that really scares me, let's see, on their starting rotation is Alcantara.
Yeah.
Cueto always got
We'll
a.
be talking about him in a minute. So
Yeah. Cueto was always good, and I mean they don't have fabulous players, but when they play Philly, it's like every team that goes down to the Miami South Beach, they got the South Beach flu. So I mean
all right. So Nick, Jazz Chisholm, are you drafting him this year? If you could.
If I could, yeah. Where would I draft him? Maybe
He's going
6,
to have
7.
second base outfield eligibility this year.
He is. Yeah,
Can he
6,
stay
7
healthy?
round.
Can he stay healthy?
I heard
Probably
one guy say he's the number 1 second baseman. I thought you were nuts.
Can he be
Overall?
in our league?
Yes.
Can he be in our league?
Over Marcus Semien?
Yeah. He had him over Altuve, over Simeon, over Albies.
Can he
Yeah,
be in
please
our
put him
league?
in our league. Please put him in
Yeah.
our league. Please.
He gets paid to talk about this stuff, and he said that nonsense.
He gets paid. Okay.
Nick, worst team in the league. Is it going to be Washington?
Nets.
Okay, so it is going to be Washington. They're worse than Detroit, worse than Pittsburgh, worse than Cincinnati.
Oh no! I thought you meant in the East. No, Pittsburgh's going to be the worst.
Okay.
Pittsburgh might not even win 65 games this year.
Oh yeah, I've got them. I got them under their 67.5 win total for sure.
They got a beautiful ballpark, but an ugly team.
They do have a great ballpark. I've never been there, of course, but I've seen
gorgeous.
pictures, and it
gorgeous.
looks awesome. That's got to be on the list of ballparks to visit in your lifetime.
Nick, tell the folks where they can find you. We appreciate you coming on today. Tell the people where they can find you at.
They can find me at tssfantasy.com. You can find us on our webpage, tssfantasy.com, and they can find us on our podcast coming up. We're going to restart. We have a big draft day special, and that's on tssfantasy.com. You can find us on Spotify and anywhere else you get your podcasts.
He's Nick Macaronis. We'll have him back on throughout the season. We'll have him on next week during the draft as well. The chat at some point during the draft, and appreciate his insight and his taking some time. Nick, thank you for taking some time for us today.
Vince, where am I? Do you know where I am picking? I don't know. I think I'm in the back end. I think I'm like 9.
Yeah, I think you're 9. Yeah.
Good.
Right.
Well, I
So
hope
we surround you, Nick. I'm 7 and he's 10. So
I hope Shohei falls to 9. That's all I'm saying.
well, I don't know about all that, but I'm hoping Soto falls to 7.
There you go. All right.
All right.
Who won't be there at 10? All right. Thanks, Nick. Appreciate you.
See you later.
That's
See ya.
Nick Macaronis. A reminder, go visit righteousfelon.com. Use the promo code BELLYUP to get 15% off your purchase. It's time for the moment you've all been waiting for, our starting pitcher rankings, and we'll do this in our Fantasy Focus segment. Fantasy Focus is presented by BellyUpFantasySports.com. All the fantasy advice that you need right in one place. BellyUpFantasySports.com. Go and give it a visit right away. All right, Kev, let's get to our pitcher rankings as we are coming up on the time. And we'll pull them up here for our viewers on YouTube. Our podcasters can't see it, so we'll give them a quick shout here. Let's start with our top 2 because they're the same. Corbin Burns from Milwaukee. Garrett Cole for the New York Yankees. To me, that's really easy stuff, right?
Right. Even though ESPN has them the opposite. Garrett Cole, number 1, and then Corbin Burns, number 2. And
I'm concerned about Burns just because he had contract dispute this year. That always worries me. He's not
I
happy
think he
with
puts
the way
that
it was
behind
handled.
him. And he's
I
going to
hope
go out there and say, hey, Milwaukee, eat my dust, right?
As a Brewers fan, I hope that he puts it behind them and goes out and goes crazy. I admit I'm nervous. I'd still take him first pitcher, but I understand a little bit of concern there. Garrett Cole, obviously a great pitcher. He gives you all kinds of stat lines.
He does.
He's the best
He has
pitcher on
that
his team.
little where things start to go a little wonky
Yeah, the
with
hiccup.
him,
Yeah,
and you just know when that is.
yeah.
And
Well, it was
so-
the spider tack issue, right? He was
Right.
using the spider tack, and they said you couldn't use it, and all of a sudden he went downhill for a while. He pulled it back around. He ended
he
up
did.
having a good year.
And so, when it comes to him, 3.50, because he pitches in New York, and that's not a good, well, you have to think about, because the left field is a wasteland out there in New York. Right field, you could just hit up in the air and it's going out.
Sure.
But he's got a great lineup
Yeah.
around him.
He gets
so-
run support.
I've seen him as the number 3 pick on the ESPN mock draft board. I'm not taking him that high
No.
for me.
No.
And so if he was happen to maybe roll back, there was one draft I did where Corbin Burns was sitting there at number 7, and I had to seriously consider that, and actually did bite on that one time just to see how it would work, because I think that he is due for a major season coming up.
Yeah, I mean, if he's sitting there at that 10, 11 turn for me, I probably have to take him. My strategy is going to be so based on what everybody else does. So if he's sitting there at 10, I'm probably taking him. But I don't know. I'm interested to see how it all shakes out. But those two guys are clearly in 1 and 2. You've got Aaron Nola at 3. I've got him at 4. He's in that same category for me.
Right.
Nola to me is a close third. Like, there's not a lot of separation between Cole and Nola to me.
Yes. And so, because I had Nola a couple of years ago, and that didn't work out so well. So I avoided him last year. And he is a guy, he's kind of like Jake DeGrom, right?
Sure.
He lost 13 games a year ago. Can you believe that? From the
That's
NL
crazy.
champions. That's crazy. But you look at this, he had a 3.25 ERA and a 0.96 whip. So he was losing games that were 3-2,
Yeah.
2-1, stuff like that. And the thing that made me put him at number 3 is this is his walk year.
Okay.
And so I think he's going to put some things together. He's going to want to say, hey, pay me. And then I just heard that they're actually negotiating maybe an extension for him. If that happens, then maybe he takes a little step back, because then the incentive's not there. But right now it's there. I think he's going to have a monster year.
Yeah, I think so too. And I've got him 4. I got Scherzer 3, but I think those top 4 guys are just solid. You get one of those top 4, you're sitting pretty. You got Scherzer at 5. We'll talk about Sandy in just a minute. Do you put Scherzer in that top tier, or do you have him a tier below?
Well, traditionally, Scherzer, is Scherzer.
Yeah.
But as we just mentioned, he's 40 years old. Or is it 39? The other guy's
He's 39. Yeah.
Okay, 39. Okay, but even so, 39, at some point, you got to start wearing down a little bit. And that's a concern with me. And that's why I put him at number 5. I think he comes out of the gates roaring like he always does, because the Mets are not going to ask him to pitch out of the bullpen like the Dodgers did. And that didn't work out at all, in the playoffs. And so I think that Scherzer is going to come out there, but at some point his arm's going to say, hey, I'm 39. And it's going to start, not a lot, but just enough for me to back him up to the number 5 slot, because I'm a little worried about his, and it's not been an issue before, but durability to me is something that I'm looking at.
It's scary for sure. You got Sandy Alcantara at number 4. I've got him all the way down at 8, but I think these top 9 guys are so close together. To me, that's not knocking Sandy. Yep. It's just saying I put other guys above them, but to me, they're all really close. How much do you trust a pitcher from Miami?
Well, that's the only issue and if he was pitching, let's say for Atlanta, let's just say, he'd probably be at the top of the list
He'd be up there. Yeah.
because he pitches for Atlanta, and Atlanta, first of all, they know how to use their pitchers. Second of all, they've got a great team, and so when he blew the doors off the place, then things, because Miami was falling apart anyway, but he's going to give you innings. He's a much younger guy than some of these other ones that we've talked about. And so I think he's going to be there the whole season. He can last the whole season. But if you're looking for wins, probably not the place to go.
Sure. I got Verlander at 5. You've got him at 8. Don't tell anybody, Kevin, but I'm not drafting Verlander. I have him at 5 because his stats demand it. But
right,
I ain't touching him.
There's a 0 chance, because we talked about Aaron Judge last week. There's 0 chance he's going to put up the season that he did a year ago. There's 0 chance that Justin Verlander comes out there and pitches to a 1.83 ERA. Not going to happen. And I think that, him pitching for the Mets, they're going to have to be careful with him.
Sure.
Scherzer, they can let him pitch because, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Justin Verlander, he came off the Tommy John and it was like his second year back from that. And second year back, Tommy John, it works out. Maybe after that, I'm not too sure. And so Justin Verlander is too big a question mark for him to be at the top of my rotation.
You got to remember that same organization is an organization that could have made Jacob deGrom the best pitcher to ever play the game, but he had too many losses because they gave him 0 run support. He would lose games 1-0 all the time.
Right.
And
he won the Cy Young Award with, what was it, 10 wins, 11 wins?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And he had guys over there on pardon interruption losing their minds because he was winning the Cy Young because he only won 10 games, 11 games.
He was great. Verlander, though, he's going to need run support. And
he got that in Houston, but in Spain.
He did. Not sure he's going to get it in the Mets.
I'm not sure either.
He should.
He should, but, when it just like he is 40.
Yes.
And that's going to wear, I look after the All-Star break, it's going to be an issue to me.
Yeah, I agree. You got Strider at 6. I've got him at 9. Again, I don't feel like that's a knock on him. I just don't think he's going to have as good a season as he had last year. I think he'll be very good. And that's why he's in my top 10. I think he's going to take a step backwards. I think the Braves, they're going to win the division probably, but they're still going to take a small step backwards as well, is what I think at the very least. And so that's why I've got him at 9. You've got him at 6, and you absolutely love him.
I absolutely do. And as we were just talking to Nick about, there's a lot of people who are not on the Strider Express this year saying there's no chance he's going to strike out 200 guys. And I've got it right here. He struck out 202. Let me see here. And then he only pitched 131.2 innings. That's unbelievable. 202 strikeouts and only 131 innings.
Yeah.
And so that's the kind of elite stuff that guys like deGrom had when they were younger. And Spencer Strider, he's only in his second year. So I think he's big, he's strong. And he's going to throw the ball.
He's going to have 6 less games against the Nationals this year, at least. And that's going to hurt his strikeout numbers. Not a lot, right? That's only
not a lot. No, yeah. So I think that if he's there, I'm going to have to really think, because I would be happy with Spencer Strider as my number 1 pitcher on my staff.
Interesting.
Because some of these other guys, they're going in the first, second round.
Yeah.
And Spencer Strider, because here's what I was saying. Spencer Strider, they've got him Fantasy Pros at number 6, so that's not so bad. Some of these other guys have him down at like number 10, which that's not happening to me. I'll definitely be looking for Spencer Strider on draft day.
Spencer Strider right now is where did that go? Here we go. He is going a 34th overall, so that's a third-round draft pick. He's going 24 in Yahoo leagues, 35 in ESPN leagues, 42 in CBS leagues, 33 in Roto leagues, and 30, 36 in other leagues. So, I mean, he is third round. You're willing to go third round with Spencer Strider?
Depending on what happens in my first two picks, because I could certainly see me going offense with those two first picks. But if he's sitting there in the third round, I could certainly see him coming for the second consecutive year over to Team Wilson.
Interesting for sure. I like him. I'm not sure if I like him in the third round. Now, granted, I'm picking at the end of the third round, so maybe I do like him in the third round, but I'd be picking pick number 39. Let's see here. Shohei, I've got him at 6. You got him at 10. Obviously, this is just ranking pitchers. We all believe Shohei, if you're playing fantasy baseball and you got the top pick, Shohei Ohtani's, you got to take him.
As long as he's one player on your roster.
Correct.
If you're playing Yahoo, that's not the case. And I've yet to see any convincing reason why that is. Because you got to draft him as two guys.
I like that.
Yahoo league. Do you? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I do.
One guy. And so even whichever way you want, as a hitter, he's elite. As a pitcher, he is elite. And so he's top 10. As a pitcher, you got him at 6. That's a little higher, I think, because kind of like with some of these other guys, he doesn't get the run support traditionally on the Angels, because the Angels just have not been good.
True.
Have not been good, and they started off last year pretty good. Then all of a sudden they lost, what was it, 28 games straight or whatever, whatever it was. And Joe Madden, they said, see you later. No reason to, we'll pack your office for you and that sort of stuff. And so it's interesting to see what's going to happen, because he's a free agent coming up.
Right.
And he's a guy that he's going to want to put it together as much as he can and see if he goes down the freeway over to L.A.
Oh, yeah. He's going somewhere. San Diego, all in on him. I mean, Angels are going to have to lock him up early, in my opinion, to keep him. You got Burns 1, Cole 2, Nola 3, Alcantara 4, Scherzer 5, Strider 6, McClanahan from Tampa 7, Verlander 8, DeGrom 9, and Ohtani 10. Now, you've got McClanahan and DeGrom, two guys I do not have in my top 10. McClanahan, very, very close to my top 10. And DeGrom to a degree as well, but I just don't think DeGrom is going to pitch more than, 120 games this year, or be active for 120 games this year. I don't know. I don't think I can draft DeGrom.
The biggest question mark.
Yeah.
In all of baseball coming into the draft. And as we talked about earlier before we came on, he pitches in spring training for the first time tomorrow. So, but he may not pitch against major league hitters. They're talking about possibly have him pitch in a B game. So we're still not going to know anything definitively. He might pitch, since it's Monday, he might pitch again before our draft comes around. But he's the guy that people are going to be trying to take in the second round, to me.
Yeah.
And that I'm not doing that. Even though he pitches for the Rangers, the hometown team, I'm not doing that.
Last year, he had his worst ERA since 2017. He had only 102 strikeouts, which is he had 104 in 2020. Other than that, his closest to 102 was 143 back in 2016. His ERA is up. His strikeouts are down. Everything that makes him great is starting to change. Plus, he's switching to the Rangers, and the Rangers aren't a bad team, but he's switching to a team that's not
more runs for him, unlike what he's used to. Yeah. But when you look at him in the last 3 years, he has pitched 68, 92, and 64 and a third innings. And So if he was, the Jacob deGrom of old, he's number one
Yeah.
without question. If that's a big if, because first of all, he delayed his spring training because he had a strained side
Right.
already, right? He's had injury problems the last couple of years, and so if anyone's listening, right, and he starts to slide, if you're in the 4th round and he's sitting there, that's value to me. But in the 2nd round, not happening.
Definitely not
3rd
happening.
round, not
Now,
happening.
3 sites have him projected to throw 170 plus innings. 2 sites have him at 140 plus. 1 site has him at 100 plus. He hasn't pitched 100 innings in 4 years, since 2019. How many innings do you project Jacob deGrom pitches this year?
I would, if, man, we're always talking ifs, if he crosses the 140 inning threshold, even then, that's not enough innings for a guy that you're talking about going at the top of a draft.
Right.
I don't want that. I want a guy who's going to pitch 180, 190, 200 innings.
I think for the Rangers, if he pitches 140 innings, then it was a good signing. For fantasy baseball, you want him to be more in that 160 range, I think.
Right, at least that.
Yeah.
If he goes in a regular guy, if he's a regular guy and he gives you 160 innings, you'll take that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If his last name is like Montgomery for the St. Louis Cardinals,
Sure.
you take that.
Sure.
But it's deGrom.
Yeah.
That's too much in a draft. His potential puts him in the top 10, and that's the only thing. That's the only reason why he's in my top 10.
Talk about McClanahan in Tampa. What you like about him?
Well, he's much younger, of course, and when you look at him, 12-8, 2.54, 0.93 WHIP, 166 in the 3rd innings. So there you go. He crossed that threshold. 194 strikeouts, 38 walks. He's only 25. He's a left-handed, but he did have 2 stints on the injured list last year. If that was not the case, he'd probably be higher up in my rankings. And he pitches for a sneaky good Tampa team, as we talked about before. If you don't think that Tampa is going to make the postseason, that's not a smart play. And so I like him at the top of that rotation because he pitches for an organization that knows what they're doing.
Sure.
So I like him for that reason. And he's a left-hander, which they're not, too many top left-handed pitchers in the league. So I'll take that. And if he's at the top of my rotation, I'm feeling pretty good about it.
Yeah, I could agree with that. He's only been in the majors for 2 years. He skipped AAA, by the way. He comes up in 2021, pitches very well, and then he improves in 2022. And you would assume he would improve again this year. I've got him, sniffing my top 10. If I had him as my second pitcher, I'd be really happy. Not sure if he was my first pitcher. I'd have to make a run on pitchers at that point if he was my first pitcher.
Well, if you're going offense in the top of the draft, as I suspect a lot of people will, then you need to take this run on pitchers later in the draft. You got to.
I'm curious about our draft, Kev. I think
right.
I think there could be 7 pitchers off the board, 6 pitchers off the board by the time you pitch, or by the time you pick. I think there could be 5 pitchers off the board by the time you pick. I think there could be 0 pitchers off the board by the time you pick.
Right. In our league, it's because if have you done an ESPN draft, a mock draft yet?
No.
Okay, because they've got that where they cut out a lot of positions on there, and so basically all it is you're just drafting the top players, and there's not a whole lot of thought process that goes into it. We have all the positions. We've got the outfielders, we got the middle infielder, we got the corner infielders, we've got pitchers, we've got bench spots. So you're going to have to put some thought into this of what you value and how you pivot, because there's been course times where I want this guy, then the guy right before me takes him.
Yeah.
And so what do you do now? So you're right. I'm very interested to see how things work. in this? Are they homers? Are the 3 Philadelphia guys going to be homers? Are
Fighting.
you and Chase going to be homers when it comes to Milwaukee? And so I'm really looking forward to what's going to happen.
I got 2 guys you don't have on your list. Zach Wheeler, again, I think him, Shannon McClanahan, everybody, they're close together. I also got Shane Bieber. Bieber's an interesting one because he's had some health issues as well. Last season was a good season, great season for him.
Yeah.
200 innings pitched, 198 strikeouts, 2.88 ERA, and he's got a really good club around him. But the previous 2 seasons, 20 and 21, he never made it to 100 innings. 2019, his best year, 214 innings and 259 strikeouts. So health is a big issue with Bieber. If he can stay healthy, he's going to be really good. And then Wheeler, like I said, I got just a whole clump of guys down there, that 10 through 13 range of guys that are really good. And, if they're my second pitcher, then I'm happy with either of those guys, any of those guys.
Yep, I'd have to agree with that. And Zach Wheeler is a guy who he got the wins where Aaron Nola did not. For whatever reason, however that works out. And so he would be a very good number 2 pitcher to me.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I like him at in that role as the second guy. And again, he's 33. He'll be 33 shortly. And so that always, you got to look at that a little bit. But last year, 153 innings, 163 strikeouts. The year before that, 213 innings, 247 strikeouts. He's been over 160 strikeouts 5 of 7 seasons. So health is a little bit of an issue with him as well. But his ERA has stayed under 3 for the last 3 years. So there's some value there in Zach Wheeler as well. Kev, let's look at our value pick and bust. Let's start with bust. Who do you have busting?
Well, who I have busting is a guy who I had on my team last year and who came through spectacular. I have a hard time saying that. Very well. Let's put it that way. All right. He stumbled a little bit down the stretch. I'm talking about Dylan Cease of the Chicago White Sox. And so when you look at his numbers, you talk about a strikeout rate. He had 227 strikeouts. All right. And he had off the wall K rate, but then you look, he had 78 walks, way too high. That's one of the highest walk rates in the entire American League. And that's scary to me. And so he had another thing that concerns me is the batting average and balls in play was just 260 against him. That's going to come up. And so when I look at him, he is going to strike out guys, but his walk rate is really scary. And so him on Team Wilson, not happening 2 years in a row.
I've tried to tell you guys, White Sox, watch out for them this year. They're going to be fantasy players. They're going to be real players, but that's okay. That's okay. I stay in Chicago for my bust, and I don't know that it's a fair bust. That's a great bust pick there, Kev. I go Marcus Stroman with the Cubs. He's an undraftable player in my opinion. I know guys can't have him.
Yeah, he was a problem because I he'd pitch well, and then I'd say okay, and I'd put him on my team, and then he would not pitch well, and so then I would drop him from my team, and then he would pitch well. So inconsistency there. Yeah, so
the Kev curse.
The Kev curse, and so he could curse somebody else's team. Not happening on here.
How about your value pick? Who do you like?
My value pick. I know you're saying you're not big on Houston, but my value pick is Framber Valdez.
I like
now
him.
that Justin Verlander has gone to New York, he inherits the number 1 pitcher for the World Series champions. And if you take him, he's ranked at 24th over, pitcher by Fantasy Pros, number 69 overall. And so we're talking 6th round there. If you get him and he is a potential ace, and there's value, if you get him in the 6th round and he does, because he was 17-6, 2.77 ERA, 201 in the 3rd innings, 194 strikeouts. And so he actually had 3 complete games. That's probably more than most teams had on their entire team. So I really, really like him. If he winds up on my team as a number 2 starter, I'm in great shape.
Sure. And to clarify what Kevin just said, I'm not anti-Houston. There's just a weird thing where I see a Houston player on my list. I'm like, I don't know. I'll go on to the next guy. And there's nothing personal against him. And actually, I like Valdez a lot. I think he could be a really good pitcher this year as well. I'm going to go a little further down in the hopper. A guy that you and I have talked about, not on this show a whole lot, is Nick Lodolo in Cincinnati. He's the number 2 guy behind Hunter Green. I like him a lot better than I like Hunter Green.
I do too. Hunter Green is a guy I want nothing to do with.
Is it Hunter Green? I feel like I got that name wrong. That's
I think you got that right.
Okay.
Yes, you got that right. So, one of our new aspiring writers wrote about him earlier in the season, and so I like him a lot as a pitcher that you can put on your. Don't like the team he plays for, of course.
Right.
Of course, but as a guy that you can get in your middle of your staff, I like that a lot.
Yeah, if you draft him as your 4th or 5th pitcher, that's the right value for him. If he's your 2nd pitcher, you're in trouble.
Yeah, you're definitely need to evaluate how you build your pitching staff if he's number 2 on your team.
Yeah, definitely 100% on that one. But that's who I like. And, I was such an anti-red last year that I was like 0 Reds on my team. This year, I've already talked about Jonathan India. I've already talked about Tyler Stevenson. Now I'm talking about Nick Lodolo. I'm not sure exactly what I'm doing. He is going on average at 129 right now. Lodolo is. He's going as high as 96 and as low as 144. So in that 12 to 13 round range is good value for him. Now, 9, that's too high.
No, I'm not doing that. Number 9's not happening. Number 12, sure.
Yeah, 12, 13, somewhere in that range, I think is a good fit. I like him in that area as well. All right, Kev. Oh, my goodness. We're at an hour, 7 minutes. Hey, thanks, everybody, for sticking with us through this.
That's right.
Kevin,
you're getting all the info right here.
That's right. Kevin, we've already said everybody can find your writings on bellyupfantasysports.com. They can find you on Twitter at Kevin62, WILSEA. And next week, we've got the fantasy baseball draft live right here, regular time, 8 p.m. And we'll be bringing guys on from our league on throughout different rounds to chat with them. You get the chance to talk with Mike Brown, the co-founder of Belly Up Sports. I'm excited about that, and other guys as well. I think my dad's going to join us at a round as well. Probably have to have him on earlier. He goes to bed early, so we'll get him on at some point early in the draft. But Kevin, Dad's been promoting the show, man. He loves the show, listens every week, and says he loves to hear what we have to say and kind of hear different ways of thinking about fantasy baseball, which I think we do that. I think we give that kind of information out as well. So
we do.
Hard to believe the draft is here, which means baseball season
the draft is here, and so you definitely want to join us next Sunday. Because I think a lot of guys are doing their draft probably the next weekend after that. So you can get some practical, on the spot experience right here before your draft starts to see how things work, because it's all real people doing real things, reacting to a real draft. So you definitely want to check that out.
Making fun of people. Me and Kevin will be making fun of people.
You talked about Shane Bieber. I assume I won't make fun of anybody taking him in the first round this year.
I think we'll go number 4 overall this year.
No, he's not going number 7. The only reason why I know that is because that's me.
That's you. So, like I said, Kevin just said it. We're doing this for you guys, for the listeners, to kind of get to hear a draft and see some thought process, hear some thought processes in it. I like to wait till right before the season starts. That's when my other draft will be is the weekend before the season starts. So, but this is to help you guys. So I hope you take advantage of it and tune in. Yeah. Also, Kevin, we're going to be doing a Belly Up baseball super show, March 28th. That's a Tuesday, 2 days before opening day. We're going to have, we're going to be talking through divisions. It's not a fantasy show. It's a baseball show. It'll be on the Belly Up YouTube page. And so make sure you plan to be there and check that out. Kevin will be on that first segment. And we'll be going through division by division, talking through the baseball season and talking through injuries and things like that as well. All right. Follow me at Sports Stove on Twitter and Instagram. Go to righteousfelon.com. Use promo code BELLYUP to get 15% off your purchase. And go to bellyupfantasysports.com for all your fantasy needs. Thank you so much for tuning in and sticking around for this show today.
You know, like Vince said, we do this for you guys. We appreciate your support and being here. And it always makes me happy that the thought that I'm actually helping someone, because that's why I'm doing this.
Very good. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks again. Until next time, we'll see you around the Sports Stove.
That's right.